Welcome everybody to another episode of Superhero Sunday, coming at you this week from the GingerBringer.co and the GingerBringer YouTube channel. Alright guys, we got a good double feature this week. We're looking at Iron Man 2 and Thor. So Iron Man 2 picks up right where the first Iron Man left off, with Tony Stark admitting he's Iron Man. Cut to Russia, there's a guy played by Mickey Rourke who turns out to be Whiplash, building a machine, an arc reactor, same as Tony Stark. 6 months later, he comes along and fights Tony Stark and plots his revenge, gets his ass kicked, yada yada yada. That's basically the plot. Honestly, in terms of story, this one is a little bit more, I guess it shouldn't say it's weaker. It does establish a villain right away with Whiplash, and they don't call him Whiplash in the movie at all, by the way. But it doesn't, the villain is very lackluster in this movie. He has a very lame intro, he's just kind of there, and he doesn't really do much. I mean, he fights Iron Man once, gets his ass kicked, and at the end of the movie, I think, I can't even remember how he dies. To be honest with you, I'm actually kind of blanking on it, it's been that forgettable. So, the strength of this movie thankfully doesn't fall onto the villain, because it's very down, and I really think that what brings this movie along is, again, Robert Downey Jr., same as the first one, and the romance between him and Pepper Potts, Gwyneth Paltrow, and the recasting of Rhodey as Don Cheadle. And I'm going to touch on that right now. In my last review, I said I really enjoyed Terrence Howard, and he had a warmth to him that I felt Don Cheadle didn't have. I retract that statement. In this movie, Don Cheadle does have that caring friendship for Tony that I thought he was lacking in movies like Iron Man, or not Iron Man, sorry, Civil War. But no, he does a really good job. He's funny, but he's down to business. He's a friend who cares, but he doesn't let Tony walk on him, which is a nice addition to the character. And he is Terrence Howard, to me, it looks like a movie star. Don Cheadle looks a bit like a normal guy, very humble looking. And I mean that in a good way. He doesn't look like your typical superhero. He's not in great shape in my opinion. He looks like his hairline is a little receding, or his forehead is very big. He doesn't have that superhero look to him, like a lot of people do. He doesn't have the Superman look, I guess. Even Robert Downey Jr., he looks great. He's in great shape. And he's got his hair styled just a certain way, and his facial hair. Don Cheadle looks like an everyday guy. So that was a good recasting choice right there. Gwyneth Paltrow, her relationship with Tony Stark, again, I really do enjoy it. It doesn't focus on it too much, but they're there just enough, and they have a great chemistry that you believe that they do care about each other, even though they don't want to admit it. And I think that's where the fun comes in with it. Like, they both like each other. It reminds me of, in Star Wars, that Han and Leia type of relationship, to me. That you can tell there's chemistry there, and you can tell that there is feelings, but both are too kind of stubborn to admit it. A downer in this movie is the ending climax with War Machine and Iron Man fighting, again, just another bunch of robots. It feels like all they did was, from the first movie with one robot versus Iron Man, they put 10 against 2. It feels like the same. It doesn't feel like there are too many stakes, even when you find out that Pepper is in danger of being blown up. There's really no suspense there that she might die. The action in this movie, I feel, takes a back seat to the characters, which I'm all for, but I feel like the action did suffer. Like, it's not very fun, and it's not very exciting, as other superhero movies are. Although, I do have to say that the confrontation between Rhodey and Iron Man was a really good one, where they were in the house, and Rhodey told him to stop, and Tony refused. Very nice character moment right there between the two of them. And again, introducing War Machine into this movie was a really nice choice. They hinted at it at the last one. Nick Fury to show up in the movie other than a post-credit scene was nice. His introduction when he tells Tony Stark to step down from the donut perfectly embodies the character. He's serious, but he's in a world where things are a little bit ridiculous. He's my favorite part of the movie, actually. Samuel Jackson played him perfectly. Samuel Jackson does a lot of yelling at Tony Stark and telling him what to do, and that's really, really funny, especially from Tony's point of view, who was never told what to do by anybody. Scarlett Johansson was great as Natasha Romanoff. She is very, very sly. in this movie. She feels more like a spy than a superhero, which I really like her character for that. And I really hope one day we'll see a Black Widow movie, because I think that her character and her backstory and the actress all are blending very well, and I think that would be a really kick-ass movie. You could do it almost like a spy thriller with Marvel characters. I really think that would be pretty kick-ass. No, Scarlett Johansson does a great job in the film. Is it Agent Cole, I think his name is, from S.H.I.E.L.D.? He's great, and I love that midway through he's called to go to New Mexico to go investigate Thor's hammer, and I actually watched Thor before I did Iron Man 2 just because I had Thor in my possession at the time. So that was a nice little like Easter egg and preluding to the next movie in the universe. So that was nice. This movie really is great at world building. It does that very well. You cannot deny it. It introduces War Machine, Black Widow, S.H.I.E.L.D., and more aspects of S.H.I.E.L.D., and sets up to future events that are going on at the same time with Thor and all that. So actually looking back at Iron Man 2, when I first watched it many years ago, this is only the second time I've ever seen it. Probably about 8 years has gone by since I've seen it, and I didn't enjoy it at all the first time I watched it, but I enjoyed it more now. It's not the best by any means, but it has its moments, and it has its flaws, I guess. But it really, I feel, needed a stronger villain. And I think they just need to give more time, because you had Mickey Rourke, and Mickey Rourke is a phenomenal actor. And he could have done so much more than just kind of sit in a lab and just kind of chuckle to himself and not really do anything, just play with machines. I wanted him to be a little more involved in the plot and kind of get under Tony's skin a little bit more, because he really didn't seem to get into Tony's skin, and that would be a really interesting dynamic with Tony Stark. But that's my thoughts on Iron Man 2. I would say it's a watchable Marvel film. Not the best, not the worst, but definitely needs improvement. Now we're talking about Thor. Now Thor, in my opinion, has his standalone movies only second to Captain America. I really do enjoy the Thor storyline. Chris Hemsworth does a great job as Thor. He has that lovable goof and very arrogant douchiness to him, almost like Thor is a frat boy in this movie. That's what he feels like, an honorable frat boy, if any contradiction could be any more so. So the plot of Thor. Thor is named to be king, and his planet is invaded, so he takes the fight to them, and breaks out a war. So his father banishes them and takes away his power, and Thor has to basically prove himself to be a hero. It's kind of like Hercules, Disney's Hercules, in that sense, that he has to, in order to be a true hero, he must put the good of the people over his ego. And it has aspects of The Lion King in there too, I feel, with the brothers trying to fight over the throne. That's what it reminded me of, with red being like, Thor's color reminded me of Mufasa, and Loki reminded me of Scar, like tricking his brother, keeping him away, and almost like, yeah, manipulating him like he manipulated Simba. I guess you can even draw that back to Hamlet. Thor has a good plot, kind of a lame, I shouldn't say lame, kind of like flat action, but its jokes hit, and it does have some really great character moments in this. I'm going to go into the plot a little bit more. When Thor goes to pick up his hammer for the first time after losing it, and he can't do it, and he just breaks down and he screams. That was a very strong moment in that movie, and I remember watching that for the first time, and it really hit with me. It was a guy who had been so great at everything, and now he can't lift. His hammer is like Indiana Jones's hat or Captain Jack Sparrow's hat. It's how they identify themselves. It's a part of them, and now that part is no longer there, really says a lot about that character. So that, and also at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, when Thor makes the choice to sever the pathway to Earth so he'll never see Jane again, for the good of his people, was a nice way to end his arc, because he starts out as this selfish, egotistical brute and ends with a more thoughtful, caring. He ends up as a leader, as a true king. I really did enjoy his arc. I had my favorite Stan Lee cameo in any Marvel movie is in this movie.
Did it work?
It's hilarious to me. As I said in the Iron Man section, that it's going on at the same time as Iron Man 2. I really enjoyed that. I want to talk about Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman does a really good job in this movie. Her and Thor's relationship feel very organic. The actors don't have too much time to develop it, but they do great with what they have. Those little moments, and that's what they hit in this movie. They hit the little moments of character between the two. Like when he's teaching her about the universe and explaining that to her, and she's listening and she wants to know more, and she wants to know more about him, and she's seen him with his shirt off, so she automatically fell in love. I did too, and so did my girlfriend watching at the time, so now I have to look like Chris Hemsworth. So, while some of the side characters are forgettable, the doctor, or not the doctor, Jane's like mentor figure, I really liked him in terms of he tries to get Thor to leave town. Like, I like that little arc. The comedy from other side characters don't really work. I really enjoyed the comedy from Thor though. Like a fish out of water story where he's on Earth and he's smashing glasses, demanding more coffee, and wanting a horse from a pet store. Like, those were little fun moments. Tom Hiddleston as Loki did a really good job. His character gets a lot better in other movies, but they're doing really good at planting the seeds, and I really enjoy that. As much as Loki resents his father for not telling him about who he still is like an Asgardian. Even though he hates Thor and everything about him, he's still, I don't think he'll betray, like, his mother or anything like that. Like, he's not just evil for the sake of evil. He has his reasons. And he dwindles. He walks a fine line. Later becomes more of an anti-hero, which I like. So all in all, I would say Thor is, out of Phase 1 so far, of everything I reviewed, my favorite Marvel movie in Phase 1 so far. Now, that can change, but I really do recommend check out Thor. It's a really fun movie, and it does great with the characters that it has. Alright everybody, thanks for listening. Keep on binging, subscribe to our YouTube channel, visit thegingerbinger.co, follow us on Twitter, and if you're on Facebook, like us on Facebook.